Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest of honor, Honorable Minister Srimati Sushma Swaraj, Minister of External Affairs, India. Honorable Minister, His Excellency, Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Singapore. Let's give them a big warm welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Thank you. May we please invite the members of the press and media to be seated for us to commence with our program, please.
From ancient times, Surya has always been the object of worship. Emerging from the primordial waters, he sits on a lotus in his golden chariot drawn by 7 horses, representing the 7 colors and driven by his charioteer, Aruna. Surya, the sun, is not only regarded as the source of light and knowledge, but that of the world. Thus, he is known as Aditya. The hymn to Surya expresses some of the highest emotions of mankind, alluding to the wonder of our existence. Surya is the maker of the day, the dispeller of darkness, the nourisher, the eye of the world, the witness of deeds, the king of planets, the one having 1,000 rays. Most of all, he is Mahapapahara, or one who is able to remove delusion, misfortune, and flawed thinking, thus bringing his devotee to liberation.
आधार Hey आदित्याय नमो नमः आदित्याय नमो नमः नमो नमः नमो नमः नमो नमः
Surya Namaskar from the Singapore Temple Fine Arts, and Aditya Archana from the Sutra Dance Company Malaysia. Two performances for you. Let's give our performers a big round of applause, please. Honorable Minister Srimati Sushma Swaraj, the Minister for External Affairs, India. Honorable Minister, His Excellency Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Singapore. Honorable Minister, His Excellency Mr. Sarvananda Sonowal, Chief Minister for Assam. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Namaste. Welcome to day 2 for Pravasi, Bharatiya, Divas. My name is Harjit Singh, your MC for this weekend. Pravasi, Bharatiya, Divas, or PBD for short, is celebrated every year to strengthen the engagement of the overseas Indian community with the government by reconnecting them with their roots and to celebrate their achievements and contribution. Initiative by the Ministry of External Affairs from the Government of India and organized by the Indian High Commission in Singapore. This year's PBD will celebrate the ASEAN-Indian Partnership, and it's appropriately themed Ancient Root, New Journey, Diaspora and the Dynamic ASEAN-India Partnership. This morning we have the Youth Competition Prize presentation and the esteemed panel to discuss the ASEAN-India Partnership in the New World Order. Following which, the parallel sessions takes us one floor below, just as yesterday on level 4, and the evening brings us back to the gala dinner, where we have some delicious dinner and wonderful performances to culminate our 2-day celebration. We would like, at this juncture, take the opportunity to thank our partners and sponsors for their invaluable contribution. Our platinum sponsors, DBS, Tata, Temasek, Global Citizen Forum, MasterCard. Our gold sponsors, Ascendas Singbridge, Global Indian International School, Olam. Our silver sponsors, AgroCorp International, State Bank of India. Our bronze sponsors, MDIS, Meinhardt, and PSA. Not forgetting our supporting partners, the Institute of South Asian Studies, the Singapore Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Invest India, IIT Alumni Association Singapore, IIM Alumni, FICCI, CII, Thai. Last but not the least, to numerous participating organizations, session partners, media and technology partners. Join me in giving them a big round of applause, our way of saying thank you. Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to begin program for day 2, it gives me great pleasure to invite the High Commissioner of India to the Republic of Singapore. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Javed Ashraf to the stage, please. High Commissioner.
Good morning and namaskar. Your Excellency, Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Republic of Singapore, and a great friend of India. Your Excellency, Mrs. Sushma Swaraj, Minister for External Affairs, Government of India. Senator Dato Sri S.K. Devamani, Deputy Minister in the Office of Prime Minister of Malaysia. Your Excellency, Tun S. Sami Velu, Special Envoy to India and South Asia for Infrastructure in the Office of the Prime Minister of Malaysia. Mr. Sarbanand Sonowal, Chief Minister of Assam, distinguished guests, good morning. It's a great privilege and pleasure to welcome you back on a Sunday morning for the second and the big day of the ASEAN-India Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. Thank you for turning out in such large numbers on Sunday, and especially a warm welcome to delegations from India and from other ASEAN countries. We are privileged to host this historic event that celebrates a very important milestone in ASEAN-India partnership here in Singapore. Singapore is a window to the heritage of the timeless ties between India and South Asia. It is the hub of progress of the past 25 years and the path to an extraordinary promise of the journey that lies ahead. The Indian diaspora, bred in diversity and steeped in dynamism, is its expression. And the PBD's theme, Ancient Root, New Journey, is a motive for our connected histories, common destiny, and collective endeavors. A PBD is usually an event to celebrate our diaspora and deepen their emotional and economic links with India. But this one is different. As our External Affairs Minister said, it should also be a platform to advance ASEAN-India ties and invest the huge wealth of diaspora's talent for the benefit of India and ASEAN. We're pleased that in the course of these 2 days, we'll have 16 sessions and a range of other events featuring over 120 outstanding panelists and speakers. It will demonstrate the breadth and diversity of the engagements of heart, minds, opportunities between India and Southeast Asia. And we are privileged to begin the day with two most distinguished speakers. His Excellency, Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, is an eye doctor by profession and a diplomat by instinct. Like an eye doctor, he shows great clarity of insight into the complex present of the world and admirable long-term vision for the unfamiliar and uncertain future. We deeply appreciate his leadership in taking India's relations with Singapore and India's role in this region to new heights. We're profoundly, profoundly honored and delighted to have with us my minister, Mrs. Sushma Swaraj, a people's minister and a resolute voice of compassion and humanity in the world. She has completely redefined the use of social media in our engagement with the diaspora. She has transformed the face of Indian diplomacy across the world, and she has placed special emphasis on reclaiming the shared heritage of India and Southeast Asia for the sake of our common future. And as she had told us often, Asia's rise and its place in the world will be incomplete without a prosperous India and a prosperous Southeast Asia working together to advance peace and cooperation in the region. We're honored to have with us Sri Sarbanand Sonowal, Chief Minister of Assam, who is the dynamic face of our nation's new mission to realize the vision of Prime Minister Modi for a resurgent Northeast anchoring a closer India-ASEAN partnership. As yesterday, we have a broad range of themes today and a great set of speakers. While you're here, please do take time out to see an outstanding exhibition on the history of India's links with Southeast Asia, the art exhibition, the Writers' Festival, the Cinefest, Yoga and Ayurveda Conference, the Startup Expo, all showcasing the talent of the Indian diaspora in the region. And of course, live demonstration by craftspersons from India. There is, as I said, something in it for everyone and every taste. We will end it with a gala dinner this evening that will be a celebration of senses and spirit. That is the soul of links between India and Southeast Asia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, High Commissioner. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's with immense pleasure that we now invite our guest of honor, Honorable Minister Srimati Sushma Swaraj, the Minister for External Affairs, India, for her welcome remarks. Ma'am, please.
Namaskar, a very good morning. His Excellency and my dear brother, Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Republic of Singapore. Senator Dato Shri S.K. Devamani, Deputy Prime Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister of Malaysia. His Excellency Tunis Samu Velu, Special Envoy to India and South Asia for Infrastructure in the Office of the Prime Minister of Malaysia. Shri Sarvanand Sonowal, Chief Minister of Assam. The wonderful Indian diaspora in Singapore and the ASEAN region. I have interacted with so many of you on social media. It's a pleasure to be with you in person. Friends and partners of India, thank you for your support and abiding faith in India's partnership with Singapore and ASEAN. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, greetings and best wishes for 2018 and a very warm welcome to the ASEAN-India Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. प्रवासी भारतीय दिवस के अवसर पर आप सबका हार्दिक स्वागत है। Friends, ASEAN and India have completed 25 years of partnership. On January 25th, Prime Minister Modi will host the commemorative summit in New Delhi. And on January 26th, India will have an honor to host the leaders of all 10 ASEAN nations as guests of honor on our Republic Day. This is not just a symbol of the value we attach to our partnership with ASEAN. It is also the affirmation of the common destiny of 2 billion people of India and Southeast Asia. It is a great pleasure to be here in Singapore, the chair of ASEAN this year. Singapore has been at the crossroads of this region's history. And it is now the springboard of the Southeast Asia's march to the future. Here, in this great nation, the currents of commerce and culture have converged. Human achievement has scaled great heights, and dreams have become realities in a generation. Singapore, has also been a political, intellectual, and economic bridge between India and ASEAN. It is now one of India's major strategic partners and our gateway to the East. Now just Singapore, and not just Singapore, the whole of Southeast Asia is on the rise in partnership with each other and the rest of the world. This region is integral to Asia's success and to the possibility of an Asian century. One of the earliest destinations of my journey to External Affairs Minister was to Southeast Asia. Since then, I have visited this region many times. Each time I visit, I am struck by the depth of our interconnected histories and even more by our interlinked future. For more than 2,000 years, India and Southeast Asia have engaged and enriched each other in every walk of life. Across Southeast Asia's magnificent diversity, I see the symbols of our ties on the streets, in the homes, in the grace of the people, in the grandeur of temples, in our handlooms, weaves, and textiles, in the rituals of diverse faiths, in the timeless majesty of epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata, in the wisdom of folklore, in the symbols and sounds of languages, in the poetry of the dances, in the melody of the music, and in the flavors of the food. The depth of our civilization and culture images are infinite. And I also see our shared values and our common interests, the opportunities of our economies and the risks of our nations, the hopes and aspirations of our youth and challenges to their future. Above all, I see the promise and potential of a defining partnership between India and Southeast Asia. So much of the potential comes from the human links between India and Southeast Asia, from the dynamic and talented Indian diaspora in the region. My friends from diaspora, we have come here at different times from the circumstances of history and the opportunities of global economy. We take delight in your accomplishments that span every field. We are proud of your commitment and contribution to the progress of your countries. We honor your connections with India, the land of your heritage. We deeply value your role in nurturing the ties between India and Southeast Asia. All these trends have come together in this ASEAN-India Pravasi Bharatiya Divas today. This is an event that certainly keeps our diaspora at the center, but our objectives are broader. मैं आए हुए डायस्पोरा का पुनः पुनः हृदय से स्वागत करती हूँ. We are here to reaffirm our commitment and redouble our efforts to shape the course of our journey ahead in the future of India, ASEAN. ASEAN and our world. This is a time of milestones. Now I'll count the milestones. वो कौन-कौन से मील के पत्थर हैं जो इस साल में होने वाले हैं? ये साल मील के पत्थरों का साल है. ये वर्ष milestones का वर्ष है. This is a time of milestones. Why? Last year, independent India turned 70. पिछले साल भारत 70 वर्ष का हुआ. लगता है आपको स्पीच हिंदी में चाहिए. शाम को मिलेगी. शाम को मैं वादा करती हूँ आज जो गाला डिनर होगा उस पर मैं केवल हिंदी में बोलूँगी. ठीक है? इस समय क्योंकि बहुत से लोग बिना हिंदी समझने वाले बैठे हैं इसलिए मैंने अंग्रेजी में बोलने का फैसला किया, लेकिन शाम को केवल हिंदी. तो आगे बढ़ें. I was saying we are here to reaffirm our commitment and redouble our efforts to shape the course of our journey ahead for the future of India, ASEAN, and our world. This is a time of milestones. Last year, independent India turned 70. It has regained the spirit of youth and it looks to the future with renewed confidence and optimism. It comes from the energy and enterprise of our people and the commitment of a proactive, transparent, and responsive government. Friends, in India, economic reforms are bold and ambitious. Infrastructure expansion is on an unprecedented scale. Investments in skills and manufacturing has a new sense of urgency and priority. Digital India is accelerating growth and inclusion, and access to basic needs of our people is no longer a distant dream, but a time-bound commitment. As India takes the place among the top economies of the world, it will be an anchor of global economy and a force of stability in the world. ASEAN has reached the golden milestone of 50 years. Bharat 70 का हुआ, ASEAN 50 का हुआ. It has been when Southeast Asia was a global fault line. When it was born, Southeast Asia was a global fault line, a theater of a brutal war and a region of uncertain nations. Today, ASEAN has unified 10 countries behind a common purpose, and it has become an anchor of broader regional integration and cooperation. For India, ASEAN leadership and centrality is essential to peace and prosperity for a rapidly changing Indo-Pacific region. ASEAN-India partnership has reached 25 years. Bharat 70 का हुआ, ASEAN 50 का हुआ, और ASEAN भारत मैत्री 25 वर्ष की हुई. मैंने कहा था ना, ये माइलस्टोन्स का वर्ष है. ये 3 माइलस्टोन्स, भारत 70 का हुआ, ASEAN 50 का हुआ, और भारत ASEAN मैत्री 25 वर्ष की हुई. Since then, our dialogue partnership has evolved into a strategic partnership. ASEAN region is at the heart of our Act East policy, जिसके सिंबल के तौर पे चीफ मिनिस्टर आसाम सर्बानंद सोनोवाल यहाँ उपस्थित हैं. With each Southeast Asian country, we have growing political, economic, defense, and cultural relations, and growing connectivity has reinforced proximity. Today, 16 Indian cities are connected to Singapore. The trilateral highway project from India to Thailand is making progress. We plan to expand this further to connect India with other ASEAN countries. Our trade agreements with ASEAN region are among the most ambitious with any region. Our partnership in regional institutions, including the East Asia Summit, helps advance peace and stability in the region. The strength of the partnership and of India's engagement in the ASEAN region lies in the clarity of the principles that we share. We believe that when all nations adhere to international rules and norms, when we conduct relations on the basis of sovereign equality and mutual respect, our nations feel secure and our economies prosper. So, India and ASEAN have a future full of possibilities, but also of enormous responsibilities. There is much that creates synergies for us, from demography to dynamism of our economies, from proximity to the talent of our people. ASEAN is India's 4th largest trading partner. Singapore alone is India's leading source and destination for investments. Over 6,000 Indian companies are registered here. ASEAN region is also a major destination for the rapidly growth on-bound tourism. As India's economy grows, our ties will deepen, our trade will multiply, and investment flows will grow. States play a vital role in India's progress, and they are important for advancing India's economic ties to the world. Today, as I mentioned earlier, we have Sri Sarvanand Sonowal, Chief Minister of Assam, with us. He is a symbol of resurgence of India's Northeast, as mentioned by Javed Ashraf. Our Northeast region will prosper when it is better connected to Southeast Asia, and when Northeast becomes a bridge to Southeast Asia. We will be closer to realizing our hopes for India-ASEAN ties. We must also work together to meet our common challenges. Now, what are the common challenges I'm mentioning? 1, creating skills for the digital age. 2, generating jobs in the age of disruption. 3, meeting the needs of rapid urbanization. Fourth, protecting our biodiversity. 5, making our energy sources cleaner. And 6, pulling together our knowledge for more resilient and productive agriculture. We can use the power of digital and mobile technology to unleash enterprise in the remotest villages, to transform governance, to improve delivery of public services, and to expand financial inclusion in the course of 5 years. In the course of 5 years, India has created a digital identity for over 1.1 billion people at $1 per person, brought banking within the reach of 99% of our population, and connected them to insurance and pension. आपको मालूम है ना, आज हिंदुस्तान में हर व्यक्ति का बैंक खाता है, उसके पास जेब में पैसा हो या ना हो, दुनिया में कहीं नहीं हुआ। जीरो बैलेंस से बैंक खाते खुलवाए हैं प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी ने, जीरो बैलेंस से। और जो खाते जीरो बैलेंस से खुले थे, आज सरकारी तिजोरियों ने उन खातों को भर दिया है, वो सारे के सारे ऑपरेशनल हो गए हैं। पूरे विश्व का सबसे बड़ा फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन, सबसे बड़ा आर्थिक समावेश अगर हुआ है तो भारत में हुआ है, और वर्तमान सरकार में प्रधानमंत्री मोदी के नेतृत्व में हुआ है। We see the potential from the 600 invited participants and startups as the inaugural India-Singapore startup event taking place over the past 2 days here. We see it in the 100 outstanding entries by Indian diaspora youth for the 6 online challenges in the PBD. We also know that prosperity is really the dividend of peace. This is the lesson of this region. Yet we know that peace cannot be taken for granted. And at no time this has been more evident than today. We live in a time of change that comes rarely in history. We are moving from industrial age to information age. Global power balance is shifting, and relations between nations are changing. The character of global economy is transformed. We are embracing new technology, but unsettled questions of history still divide us. At the same time, we see progress and opportunities as never before. This is the time for India and Southeast Asia to turn our shared values into a common destiny, to increase prosperity for our people and secure a peaceful future for our region. We will do so. How would we do so? With the familiarity of history and the comfort of culture, from the foundations of shared values and the similarity of our visions, from the innovative spirit of our societies and energy of our youth, from the pull of our economies and the commitment of our governments. Above all, we have the immense resources in the form of our diaspora in Southeast Asia to be the bridge for a new journey on an ancient route. The route was ancient, but the journey is new. With this diaspora, once again I thank you for the contribution you all have made and continue to do so in cementing ties between India and Southeast Asia. For that, I'm deeply, deeply grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
मैं फिर कह रही हूँ, हिंदी सुनने वालों को शाम को निराशा नहीं होगी, केवल और केवल हिंदी में भाषण होगा। धन्यवाद।
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great honor to now invite Honorable Minister, His Excellency, Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Singapore, for his welcome address. Your Excellency, please.
Excellency Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj, the Chief Minister of Assam, Minister Sonowal, of course our good old friend, Tun Dato Sami Velu, who has been an almost permanent fixture in these events over the decades. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Vanakkam, Namaste, and a warm welcome to Singapore. It's a special honor for me to be here to join you today at the ASEAN-India Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. It's been a decade since Singapore last hosted this event, and we are honored to be the host city again, especially this year when we are chairman of ASEAN. For the ASEAN-India Pravasi, I think it's all the more auspicious. I would like to warmly congratulate Minister Sushma Swaraj for the resounding success of this event. I think you know yesterday we ran out of seats. Today is going to be a very hectic schedule, and I hope all of you will have a fulfilling time down here for those of you who are visiting Singapore, and for the Singaporeans amongst here, for a chance to renew old ties and to build new opportunities. The theme, ancient root and new journeys, is very apt. We remember the links that have bound us over not just centuries, but over millennia. But we should also remember that we also need to look forward to new opportunities to do more, and not just at a bilateral level, but at a regional and at a global level. The Indian diaspora has traveled across ancient routes to reach our region, and it is equally important for us to remember that there are new journeys ahead of us. As a person whose ancestors, great-grandparents, left India more than a century ago, made their way here, it's a very personal reminder that this is an ancient route that they took, but in a poignant way, I always remember that I would not be here, I would not be standing before you, I would not have had the privilege of visiting India if my ancestors had not also made that fateful decision to travel on this journey. The point I'm making is that whether you look at it at a personal level or you look at it at a national level, this route has connected India to our part of the world since ancient times. The records document that the Indian contact with our part of the world goes back as far back as the early 4th century BC. And if you look around, archaeologists have discovered artifacts such as glass beads and semi-precious stones from southern India have been found in the Malay Peninsula and in our part of the world. Clearly, trade and commerce is not something new, but has been around for thousands of years. And just as the early Indian traders established links with Southeast Asia, they also brought with them religion, culture, ideas of governance, and political system. And all this has become woven into the tapestry of our region. If you go back to the 13th century, Singapore was part of the Majapahit Empire. The Majapahit Empire was one of the Indianized kingdoms in Southeast Asia. Even the old names of Singapore, Temasek, or in fact, Singapura itself, is a Sanskrit name. We are another Pura, just as Jaipur, Nagpur. There are many Puras in India. And this is just another reminder of that ancient journey. The legacy of ancient Hindu-Buddhist influence is evident in the traditions and in the landscape of our region. Look no further than Angkor Wat in Siem Reap, the Hindu Prambanan Temple in Yogyakarta, the Buddhist temples in Borobudur, or the ancient Hindu-Buddhist chandis in Kedah, Malaysia, which date back to the 2nd century BC. The Indian community has always been an important strand in the rich tapestry of our multiracial, multi-religious society in Singapore and indeed across Southeast Asia. In Singapore's early history, sepoys, merchants, laborers, administrators arrived on our shores during the early colonial period of the 19th and 20th century. Many of them stayed to help build a new nation and played pioneering roles in our emerging social, economic, and political situation. The early Indian migrants constructed landmarks and national icons. In Singapore itself, the Istana, the Commercial Square, today Raffles Place, the Sri Mariamman Temple, Singapore's oldest Hindu temple. These are just some examples. We may not remember the names or the identities of the individuals from India who built all this, but their legacy is all around us. We also remember outstanding individuals such as the late President, Mr. S.R. Nathan, who dedicated his entire life to public service. Our founding foreign minister was Mr. S. Rajaratnam, who penned our national pledge, which enshrined the visionary commitment that we will be, in Singapore, one united people, regardless of race, language, or religion. But regardless of whether one was prominent or not so prominent, all of us and our ancestors chose to make Singapore our home and help to shape the unique Singaporean identity into what it is today. A unique blend of Chinese, Indian, Malay, and many other eclectic influences that form our diverse ethnic heritage. But I'm sure the stories of the Indian diaspora's contributions to Singapore are not unique to only Singapore. There are around 6.1 million members of the Indian diaspora in Southeast Asia, all of whom, I'm confident to say, have contributed positively to the strong ASEAN-India relations that we enjoy today. Today's event is an opportunity to celebrate the important contributions of the Indian diaspora has made to this region and has given us opportunities to chart this new journey together, to keeping our economies integrated, forward-looking, and innovative. Singapore and India have come a long way from the time that we first became independent. In the case of Singapore, just 53 years ago. In the case of India, just over 70 years ago. In 2017, we marked the 25th anniversary of our relations, and this year Singapore assumed ASEAN chairmanship, and the theme for our chairmanship will be innovation and resilience. As we look forward to the next chapter, it's important for ASEAN and India to continue to reinforce this message of building connections with one another. We live in a time of uncertainty and volatility. Globalization, the presumptions under which the past 70 years were constructed. 70 years of liberal economics, of global integration, 70 years of a world order where, despite the fact that there were conflicts and wars, there was an emerging consensus that we needed a rules-based world order. But all these presumptions today are being questioned. And globalization has become an easy target for populist politicians who want to stoke anger and jealousy. And even the presumption in favor of free trade and economic integration has also become frayed. So this is a time when, in fact, we need to take stock of what is happening, why the world is so anxious, and what are those new opportunities and what changes we need to make. India and ASEAN can benefit greatly from greater economic integration and greater openness, especially with our economies and our people. We need to build more bridges, not walls, between us. ASEAN is poised for strong growth, driven by increasing consumption, by an emerging middle class, and the fact that the ASEAN population of 628 million is a young population and one that is destined to grow, and because of increasing urbanization, will create many opportunities for infrastructure investments. Southeast Asia and India represent 1/4 of the world's population and a combined GDP of more than $4.5 trillion US. The Indian consumer market is expected to become the 5th largest in the world by 2025. And incidentally, by 2025, India would already be the most populous country in the world, and India's population exceeds that of China. Similarly, the number of middle-class households in Southeast Asia will double between now and 2025. And by 2030, ASEAN will be the 4th largest single market in the world. Yet, today, India only accounts for 2.6% of ASEAN's total trade, and only 3% of tourist arrivals to ASEAN region. I cite these figures not to discourage us, but in fact to make the point that there is huge potential for growth in trade, tourism, and many other fields. And we need to draw on each other's strengths. We need to take advantage of our historical and cultural and civilizational heritage. And we need to build on this and to grow our ties. And I would like to highlight some possible paths forward for this new journey. First, we need to press on with economic integration. This is not just a mantra or a form of words, but economic integration is crucial for the mutual prosperity of the citizens of India and of the citizens of ASEAN. Singapore is therefore working with all partners towards unlocking this potential through the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. The RCEP offers us a historic opportunity to establish the world's largest trade bloc. It'll pave the way for our businesses to harness the region's true potential. And for India, because you're going to be the largest country in the world in terms of population, the largest source of growth of middle class in the next 20 years, and because India remains young in the next 2 to 3 decades, this is a historic opportunity for India. And if you add India and ASEAN and the countries of Australia, China, Japan, New Zealand, and Korea, this group potentially covers almost half the world's population, 1/3 of global GDP, and 40% of global trade flows. The point is, these are historically unprecedented opportunities. Second, we need to enhance connectivity. We are fortunate that it's much easier to access our region in 2018 compared to the times that our ancestors had to get on board a boat and take a dangerous journey to reach our shores. One of the more immediate ways to enhance connectivity is to expand air links to have more flights and more affordable air tickets that will facilitate the movement of businessmen, tourists, students. It will enhance people-to-people ties between ASEAN and India. Whilst we have been traditionally promoting physical connectivity, and we always think in terms of roads, railways, shipping, and aviation, but in fact, today, there's also a new road. It's called digital connectivity. And India has been a leading exponent, a leading example of a country that's been able to leapfrog all hurdles and to take advantage of opportunities in the digital space. For instance, the implementation of the Aadhaar system in India was a phenomenal moment and a mammoth task for a country as large as India. And the fact that India could do it, I think, speaks volumes about its ambitions and its ability in the decades to come. So the digital space offers many possibilities to transcend borders, cultures, societies, and to level the playing field, to open opportunities for everyone, not just the people at the top, but for everyone across all bands of society. So we will seize this opportunity to digitally connect ASEAN and India in areas including fintech, e-payments, and others. And Singapore stands ready to partner India in areas of innovation and to serve as a catalyst for this in our region. The third area we're going to work on is to link cities into a smart city network between ASEAN and India. We will exchange best practices in terms of technology, urban governance, sustainable development. Share, learn, network our smart cities. And we believe this will drive economic growth, provide many opportunities for our young people in ASEAN and in India. My Prime Minister proposed last November that one of the initiatives that we will focus on during Singapore's 2018 ASEAN Chairmanship is that there are natural synergies between an ASEAN Smart Cities network and India's goal of 100 smart cities. In fact, frankly, considering India's size, 100 smart cities is only the beginning. There will be thousands of smart cities across India, ultimately. India is also poised to face massive urban challenges because we expect that by 2050, more than 60% of Indians will live in cities. In the case of ASEAN, we surpassed the 50% mark in 2012. This ongoing urbanization, this need for infrastructure, need for investments will provide huge opportunities for our businesses and our people in the decades to come. The point is, we have a lot to gain from cooperation. Singapore is honored to be invited by the government of Andhra Pradesh to partner in the development of the people's capital, Amaravati, to establish a highly livable, sustainable city with excellent infrastructure services and high standards of governance. So to conclude, let me make a few points from my heart. India is an ancient civilization, thousands of years old. India has been a font and inspiration, culturally, religious, social, political, for thousands of years. India has always impacted Southeast Asia. In fact, Southeast Asia has been an area of confluence for both India and China. That's if you look at it in terms of thousands of years. If you look, however, at history over centuries, India became colonized from the 17th century onwards. It's worth asking yourself, how did an ancient civilization end up being colonized? My hypothesis is that India and Southeast Asia became colonized because we missed the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution began in England and in Europe, and that gave them enormous power, and they were able to project that power across the seas. It took the Indian independence movement 90 years to achieve independence on the 15th of August, 1947. After that, we have lived in 70 years of relative peace because we had one superpower that underwrote the global world order as we know it. But we all know that times are changing again, and the global geostrategic balance of power is fundamentally altering. So, 2 points there: the technological revolution and a change in the global power. The choice that is confronting the world today, as we undergo a twin revolution of technology and a change of the geostrategic balance, is what vision will underpin the future world. Will it be a world, a zero-sum game, where might is right, big swallows small, and we compete and we form rival blocks? Or will the alternative vision of a multipolar world characterized by interdependence, cooperation, integration, mutual respect, rule of law, with access to peaceful resolution of disputes? If we recognize that we are now in a multipolar world, and India is one of the 10th poles of this multipolar world, and if India and the other poles, the other superpowers of the future, agree to construct an interdependent world, lower barriers, more bridges, more integration, then a new golden age awaits us. That is really the strategic choice that confronts all of us, the political leadership, economic leadership, cultural and social space. And my hope, my dream is that we will make the right choice, and our children and our grandchildren will look back and say, we have arrived in a new golden age, in this new journey along ancient routes. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful day ahead.